ESBR Boxing. Delighted to be joined by Elliott Gregan, which means one thing: we are in preview mode, and we've got various super fights this weekend from Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. One of which is a fight down at super featherweight, sorry, between Joe Cordina and Anthony Cacace. Belfast Anthony Cacace, obviously, and fellow city man of myself, and then Joe Cordina, the IBF World Super Featherweight Champion. Elliott, as we like to do now, I'm going to go straight in and ask you a couple of pressing questions rather than going through the tail of the tape. But yes, as I mentioned, 12 3-minute rounds at 130 pounds, IBF world title on the line, IBO as well, which Kakache has if you hold it, if that holds any weight to you. But I just simply want to ask you first and foremost, mate, is Joe Cordina the best super featherweight in the world?
Oh, fuck. Obviously, Paul, thank you very much for your eloquent introduction, right? And then we talked about this division. We like this lower division, don't we, quite a bit? And we've talked about this before. And I think for me, the answer is no, but he's up there. And I'm going to tell you who I think is number one. I know you've disputed me on this before, and you'll no doubt take me to task on it again, I reckon, today. But for me, it's Emmanuel Navarrete. I think even though he looked, he had the Jordan last time out against sort of Conte Sal, and he has occasionally looked fairly complacent, but he's obviously got the victories over Valdez. British fans remember him slapping around Isaac Dogbo, but I think for me he's number one in the division for me. Frankly, and I look at someone like we'll touch on, I suppose, some of the other names in that division as well, other sort of champions. But obviously, you've got Shaki Foster's obviously highly rated as well. But then you look at his recent title defense, what happened there. Down the cards, obviously putting out that stoppage. So and Cordina himself, fantastic. Obviously had that those victories against Rakhimov in as well and Agawa. Everyone's sitting there going his star's really ascending, but then the last time out didn't look brilliant either. So for me, I'm still going to have Navarrete, although that's not to take anything away from Joe Cordina, who I am a big fan of. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Where are we, Paul?
It's a really interesting one for me because the three that you would mention, right, would be Cordina, Navarrete, and Ushaki Foster, probably, right? But if you look at, bearing in mind, obviously, it's worth noting that if depending on when you're watching this, Ushaki Foster is actually fighting the night before on the Friday the 16th. So he might well have won or won by knockout, whatever. But obviously, we're recording this a wee bit before that. But you'd have those three probably as the best, right? But if you look at their last performances, Cordina underwhelmed against Vasquez, Navarrete underwhelmed against Robson Conceição, and Foster obviously won via 12th round knockout, but was down on all of the cards and was losing. So you're like, well, what do you read into? Do you read into those performances, or do you take them at their best? The Navarrete, he's shown countless times how good he actually is. Cordina, the Agawa win, and then gritting it out against Rakhimov. What version of each fighter do you think is the best? I'm going to say that at this present moment in time, mate, I do believe Joe Cordina is the best super featherweight in the world, and it may come back to bite me. Depending on whether the Belfast boy Kakache wins here or not, he might be the best, mate. You never know. We could be coming back and next week saying that it's Anthony Kakache. He's the best super featherweight in the world. Who knows? Genuinely, it's a compelling fight. This, but yeah, mate, I think he's definitely up there, and I can't really say with any confidence that Joe Cordina is the best. It is between him, Navarrete, Foster, those kind of fighters. I think, and probably most likely between Cordina and Navarrete, which kind of leads me on to my next question to you, mate. How do you think Joe Cordina fares against those names I've mentioned, the likes of Emmanuel Navarrete, Utraki Foster, and one more I'm going to throw at you is obviously the former world champion at featherweight, now up at super featherweight. How would he fare against Lee Wood?
Oh, friend of the show, Lee Wood. I think I'll take him in that order. Navarrete's a tough one because obviously Navarrete's heavy-handed, wasn't he? Got 31 KOs, I think, in 38 fights. So I can see that being a close fight, but I actually reckon Cordina would see the bell in that one. I think that'd actually be points Navarrete if I'd lean towards that way. I think Cordina would have too much for a Shaki Foster, frankly. Shaki Foster's not a massive puncher. I think he's had something like 12 KOs or maybe something in 20 or fights, something like that. Not a massive KO percentage. So I think Cordina would outbox him, frankly, as well. I think he'd win that fight. I mean, maybe to be honest with you, like we've seen Cordina put out some surprising stoppages. Maybe he gets to a Shaki Foster, but I do think he'd beat a Shaki Foster. Lee Wood is the one that I'd love to see this fight actually if it did happen. Just because also I'm not sure what we've seen Lee Wood obviously in different guises. We've seen Lee Wood box really really well, haven't we, against Lara, for example. We've seen him throw obviously power punches that have stopped and concussively stop people as well. So that one for me is the one I want to see. It's tough. I'd maybe naturally lean Cordina just because of the weight and the size. Maybe I'd have him. Maybe think Cordina could probably outpoint him. I think he'd. I don't think he'd stop Lee Wood. Frankly, I think Lee Wood's obviously hard as nails unless the towel came in. But I do think. I think I'd probably lean Cordina there as well on points. So yeah, I've got Navarrete points. I've got Cordina points/stoppage against Foster, and I've got Cordina points against Lee Wood. How are we talking about it, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting. It all depends on stylistically. You know, I it wouldn't surprise me if Navarrete stopped Cordina, but I like you think it would probably go the distance. A really close fight. I would edge Cordina, but then like as we saw, Navarrete at his best is frighteningly good. It just depends on what version of Navarrete shows up. Oshaki Foster, this is one I totally agree with you. I think Joe Cordina beats Oshaki Foster probably on points. Wouldn't surprise me if it was wide either. And then the Leewood one, mate, is the one for me where all you'd have to you make Cordina the favorite. He's a fresher fighter. He's younger. He's more proven at the weight. But that being said, he struggles to make the weight. Would be up at super featherweight, not having to cut those extra 4 pounds down to featherweight. Would his power carry up? Plus, you just can't bet against Lee Wood, mate. So, what would not surprise me one bit if Lee Wood landed a shot on Cordina in the 11th round. And if he was 11 rounds down, it just would not surprise me in the slightest. So, yeah, I'm kind of sitting on the fence for that one. But unfortunately, we don't have too much time for anything else, mate. I'm just going to round off the video by asking for your prediction for this particular fight. Joe Cordina against Anthony Cacace on the undercard of Fury Usyk, of course, in Saudi Arabia on the 17th of February. How does it go?
Well, I don't even want to give this to you because you're like you say, you're a proud sort of Northern Irishman, and Kakashi is obviously also a proud Northern Irishman. But I look at this and I look at Kakashi, especially, 7 KOs, 21 fights, not a big puncher. Been in recently with the likes of Leon Woodstock, Sam Bowen, I suppose are the names of people that notice from British interest there. And I'm looking at it, I'm thinking this is going to be a stoppage victory for Joe Cordina. Frankly, I think Cordina is going to get to him. I think he's going to stop him. Frankly, and I think whether it will come, I think mid rounds, Paul. Honestly, I do. I think somewhere sort of round 6. I can see that maybe 5 to 7. I think Cordina is going to get to him. I think it'd be a good performance from Cordina over there. Big event, even though it's over in Saudi and some of the atmospheres aren't as they are possibly as it would be if it was in in the Millennium Stadium, etc. But I do think Cordina stoppage. Paul, are you going to agree with me that Cordina wins this fight, or can you see a possible way that your fellow countryman can pull this off, please?
Yeah, this could be a first time on the channel, and hopefully it's the last, and hopefully I'm wrong, but I'm not. I can't back the Belfast man as much as I want him to win. I can't say it. So yeah, timestamp that. Is this the first time in ESBR history I've ever said that? Could be. But man, just looking at it, with a generally neutral perspective on and trying to actually think of the fight, I lean Cordina and probably points. I think Kakachi will win rounds. I think he's capable of winning rounds, but the inactivity of the last 5, 6 years kind of worries me. Um, and yeah, I know Cordina's shown he's got some power here as well, but I think I'm leaning towards a I think Kakache is tough and will be tough to stop, so I'm going to lean towards Cordina points, mate. But time will tell who's right. We'll see. Could we both be wrong and Kakache wins? Let's hope. Let's hope so for the sake of Belfast boxing. But obviously, Doe won't be agreeing with me. Proud Welshman wanting Cordina cheering him on all the way. But yes, guys, let us know your thoughts on this fight. How does this one play out? Is it Cordina? Is it Kakache? Who wins? Who goes home? Who flies back to Northern Ireland or Wales with the IBF strap around their waist? Let us know in the comments, guys, and be sure to check out the rest of the content on the channel. Elliot, thanks very much for joining me as always, mate, and I'll speak to you again soon.